your Alexa smart device.
Well, good evening, Saginaw. This is Kareem, and you've tuned in to another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I am so glad that you guys have tuned in today. This is a wonderful, beautiful day outside, and I hope you guys are having an opportunity to enjoy some of this weather. Oh my gosh. But there's a lot that has been going on, and I want you guys to be a part of what's happening here. So those of you that are tuning in via social media, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we want you to like, tag, and share this conversation so that we can begin to really get into the nitty-gritty on today. I have a wonderful guest that is with me on today, Mr. Cornelius Phelps, aka Neil. He's in the house on today. But you know how we do. Today we're going to be talking about officers of the law or officers of intimidation. Which one are we dealing with here on today? So I want you guys to get involved. I know a number of you said, hey, I wanted to call in on the show so bad. Well, maybe you won't be calling on today, but you can get in here on social media, those of you that are listening, and then you can come on and make this happen. Please report on Corey. I will be talking about that shortly. But I'm going to follow the format that I have set out there. I know many of you guys are concerned about what's going on, but I appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you guys once again. I want to begin. You know how we start this thing off? We talk about what's on my mind, all right? And I got a lot on my mind. My mind is full on today for various reasons. But I just want to say, first of all, Kamala Harris. Miss Kamala Harris, we have now, has been selected as Joe Biden's vice president, the first Black woman to a major ticket party as the vice president of the United States of America. I don't care how you feel about her, Black America, whatever your thoughts may be, we have history in the making. And so I want us to, begin to celebrate that because it's important for you to understand this will never be done again. It's been done once, and so she's going to always be the first. So let's celebrate that. Many of you have issues with her record as a prosecutor and how she stood up what she prosecuted. She was considered to be a bit strong as it related to Black men, but I'm not really sure exactly what some of the issues are that some people have as it relates to that. But I want to talk about this issue real quick. And Neil, you're here.
Yes, indeed.
And I want to talk about the issue of, is she Black enough? There are a lot of people who are questioning whether or not she is Black enough. And I never really understood. I do get it. I get it. Let me stop playing. I understand what they mean. I understand what they mean when they say that. But when you hear that question or when you hear that statement, is she Black enough? What does that mean to you?
First and foremost, I think it's important that if there's one thing I want to get across, I think everybody is Black enough. If you got this melanin, if you are the descendant of
melanin,
slaves, that melanin. If you're the descendant of slaves, if you're part of this African diaspora, then you're Black enough. So I got a lot of things to say about Kamala Harris, but one thing you'll never catch me saying is Kamala Harris isn't Black enough, because all of us are Black enough, and all of our Black experiences are legitimate.
All right, so I appreciate that. Well stated, young man. Regardless of how you feel about it, we got to realize that we got to stop saying, that we are not Black enough or this, that, and the other. So it's important for us to make sure that we are, celebrating. Let's celebrate this moment. And as we celebrate this moment, we're going to hope that some of her positions and standings on certain things have changed. I will say. Yeah. So we can do a little bit better. All right. So we talked about, so we're going to talk about Kamala, but the next thing that I really want us to get into, and the thing that was on my mind, number 45's brother. We are not anti-human. We are not anti the president. However, he has a lot to deal with. But in these seasons, when people are down, I don't believe in kicking them. We're not going to do to him what he does to so many others. So we certainly give our condolences to our president. Number 45, his brother passed away. But what's interesting about that story is that there has, we know that he has been sick for a while, but there's no cause of death. And I know a number of people are looking for a cause of death.
Ooh.
And if it would turn out that his cause of death would be COVID,
Wouldn't that be something?
that would really be something.
Ooh.
But we're praying for the First family. We're praying for strength, no ill will, nothing but love. They were close. That was a close brother of his. As a matter of fact, this was the brother that filed the lawsuit against the niece who was writing the book against Donald Trump. And so he has gone on to meet his maker, and we send our condolences and our prayers. All right, next, show me the video. I'm going to say this every single time that I get on this show, and we start until we begin, we're able to see the video. Somebody's saying, what video are you talking about, Pastor K? I am talking about the video of Jennifer Clemens from July 11th. We know the whole situation. She was handcuffed and she was punched. She was beaten up
to the ground.
She was beaten up by a police officer who was handcuffed. I had such an interesting conversation with a group of police officers and their perspective. Now I'll tell you right away, when somebody said, what would you do if somebody spit on you as an individual? Now, just thinking about it outside of context, my thought was like, oh, they got a problem. Like, you're gonna be spitting on me. That's like, no. Out of context, someone saying this, or someone can't, and they spit on you. I mean, excuse me for the sound effects, but Houston, we have a problem. There's a problem with that. But as I begin to look, and you look at this is a law enforcement officer. He is there to protect and to serve, and this young lady has a history with the Saginaw Police. I believe there also might be an element of some mental issues, some issues that she needs to deal with emotionally, mentally, whatever those situations were. But it does not stop the fact of what took place. And so, John McCogan, you are our prosecutor, and you have kind of stayed out of the fray, and all of the darts and arrows and shots that have been taken. You have stayed out of the way, but you have made yourself the center of this question. You've become the target, the hot person with the hot potato, because you've refused to show this. And there are prosecutors that are releasing tapes that are yet under investigation all across America. What makes this situation different? Show us the tape. Somebody said, well, why do you want to see the tape? Because I need to know exactly what's going on. Now, Neil, I know that you're a proponent of what does the tape do for us, right?
Well, I mean, look, I think if people want to see the tape, I think justice is public, so people should get to see the tape. And if people want to see it, let's see it. Me personally, I know that sometimes when they release this footage, they don't like to release the whole thing. I've experienced that personally. So if they're gonna release the thing, I hope they release the whole thing, because they like to release parts and then make it look different. But we know what happened, and if what happened isn't enough to really make you sick of this system, if what happened isn't enough to make you sick of police brutality and white supremacy, then I don't know how seeing it is gonna change your mind.
Well,
but some people are visual people. I'm an audio person, so hearing about it's enough for me.
Well, I have to take it in. I have to allow the images, and this is how it was with George Floyd. A lot of people could not look at George Floyd's video in its entirety. And when I first looked at it, I said, I can't do this. And then something said to me, you got to watch this. You got to see everything that happens. You got to see every breath that's taken. You got to see every moment that passes for that 8 minutes and 45 seconds. I need you to sear this into your brain and not allow this to pass, because I never want you to forget this. And so I had to sit there and watch this so that I could hold on to that, because it was necessary for us to feel that pain. And so I hope many of you that are out there, Neil, somebody said Neil's my guy. That's right. Neil is here on today, and we're going to get into the depths of his conversation. So you really want to share this, because we're going to talk about what happened with you, Neil, and where we are and what's taking place as we continue this conversation. All right. So I want to, thank you guys once again. Come on in, social media. Those of you who are out there, we want to continue this conversation. Make sure that you get in here and then you begin to ask your questions. The next thing that this is really what's on my mind, and it's the thing that has been really just kind of last night about 2:30 in the morning, got a phone call. It was a family member, and they were saying, hey, you need to get to the hospital immediately. There was your cousin was shot And so my cousin was shot. I guess he was down in Bay City. And so our prayers are yet with him. For those of you who are listening, and I know a number of you have asked for updates on where he is. And so where he is, he's stabilizing. We're praying that he continues to improve. But it was, a heinous situation. It is something that my family is dealing with. And I'm not going to put all of the business out there. But what I will say is this: I need you all to continue to pray for my cousin Corey. No one's lost about what's going on, what took place. He seemingly just was kind of in the wrong place when all of these things took place. And so I hope you guys continue to pray for my family as we continue this conversation, because it is really a tough place to be in. So keep the Bowen, Burns, and every other associated member of the family. Keep them all uplifted in your prayers, because we would love for him to pull out of this without any issues. So continue. They're looking. There's an investigation that is ongoing. I would love for anybody who has any knowledge of what took place to please send me a direct message here to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. You can send me a message on Kareem Bowen on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, however you can get to me. If you want to call in to the station, drop a line. This is a situation in which I have fought for justice for so many people in our community, and now I need the community to stand behind us. So if you saw something, please say something in this moment. Our hearts are with him, Reggie and Carla, as they are, standing by, hoping that their child recovers and is able to continue his life. Young mind, young life. There's so much crazy violence that is going on. Wow. And somebody said something to me, like all this black on black crime. And I was like, I don't have time to get into that whole discussion and to tell you about this. But the basis of the matter is that we harm people that we spend time around. We commit acts against people. Absolutely. It's closeness. So my hearts and prayers are out with the family. Please continue to pray for us as we begin to move forward. I will continue to give you more details and updates, and I really want to just put the whole story out there, but I'll wait and I'll allow law enforcement to do their job, as I think that they are definitely on it. My family and our family's background. So I just ask you to continually pray for us. All right, so we're going to get to the theme of the conversation that we are having right now. And I have my man Neil in the studio, and he's here for a reason. Neil, you are here because you are what I would consider the community's quintessential protester, demonstrator extraordinaire, if you will. Wow. And so you're here with us today. Neil, why don't you say hello to our Straight Talk audience?
Hey, I'm Cornelius.
Go ahead. You're good.
So, hi, y'all. I'm Cornelius. All that was a lot. I don't know if I'm anything kind of extraordinaire, but I do have a tendency to be out demonstrating with our people for what we need, and I'm very proud of that. In fact, and it's only me right now because you can't have a lot of people in the studio. But we don't even really like to roll alone, because none of what we do is ever about one person. It's always about a movement. So we got a couple of our people outside. Wishing they could be in here with us. It's COVID, so it's hard.
That's okay. So you're here, Neil. Why don't you let people know exactly kind of where you are, where you come from? Because there's a lot of people who think that you just kind of showed up on the scene.
Oh, wow. Well, first, I'm offended. No, I didn't just show up on the scene. So I guess I'm from Saginaw. I grew up right around the south side of Saginaw, and then we've been working on this social justice piece for the better part of, I don't know how many years. It's the better part of 10 years now. Me and a lot of people that I had the pleasure of getting to activate and demonstrate and do the thing with. And most recently, it's been we've been talking about this police brutality and this white supremacy problem. So that's what we've been really focused on most recently.
This goes back to how far? How long you been doing this?
How long have I been in organizing work? Because I'm technically a community organizer.
There was another man that was a community organizer that went on to do great things.
There is. In fact, there's a lot of other men and women and non-binary folks who've been community organizers who've all gone on to do great things. I think we're talking about Barack Obama, but I always like to shout out my personal hero, a man named Bayard Rustin. But yeah, so I'm part of a long tradition, especially a long tradition of Black men who are ready to stand up for other bodies. And I've probably been doing that since I was 22. Was the first time I found a gig doing that. So that's where I come from. So I was 22 and I took a gig organizing in Saginaw, and it taught me the ropes, and then we've gone from there. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, so Neil, I want to.
I'm 27.
You're 27 today.
28 actually.
28. Okay, so you're 28, still a young guy. All right, I want us to kind of get into this conversation, but I want us first of all, the ghost of George Floyd. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
What is the ghost of George Floyd? How did it come to be? What was the motivation? How did all of this happen?
Yeah, I'll tell a story. So the Ghost of George Floyd is a project, organizing project focusing on white supremacy and police brutality that was started in Saginaw. I was there for that part. And really the way it kicked off is we were, so, of course, Brother Floyd died, but in fact, he didn't just die, he was murdered. We can never understate that. Brother Floyd was murdered. So after the murder of George Floyd, people all over the nation started, doing the thing, started getting in the streets, and it was all kinds of different ways that people were getting in the streets. And so, me and a couple of my friends, a couple of my close ones, we traveled. We went to a couple other spots, and we saw some of the other action that was going on. And on the one hand, we were inspired. We were really inspired. We were, people were out there really doing it up. People were moving as a unit. People were trying to get liberated in the streets. As Gil Scott-Heron says, it was Black people in the streets looking for a better day, and that was inspiring because people took care of each other. I was out there as a medic. I used to be an EMT.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. That's why. You brought up how homegirl spat on that officer. And I know I've been spat on so many times.
Right.
So many times. I've been spat on so many times. I've beaten 0 people. But that's not the point.
But Neil, but I don't want to give
No,
I don't
no,
want to make light of the fact that is some real emotional. People have had some serious things happen to them for spitting on them.
Yeah.
But he is yet an officer and he has a job to do.
Yeah, and the only reason why he did that is because he was empowered to do so, because police are empowered to be violent. So
we'll get to that in a second. Let's get back to where we are.
Back to the ghost. Yeah,
all right.
You're right. So yeah. Anyway, we were traveling. We went. We sat in. We took care of some of our brothers and sisters in other places. So as we took care of our brothers and sisters, our siblings in other places, we realized that in addition to all the good things we were seeing a lack of direction. We were seeing some bad things.
Okay.
We were seeing a lack of direction. We were seeing some bad things, and I'm never going to condemn any people in the street marching for a better day. But there are some things I did not want to see happen in Saginaw.
When you said you were seeing some bad things, what is it that you were seeing here in Saginaw? What are the bad things that you were seeing?
We weren't in Saginaw.
Okay.
We traveled.
Okay. You were traveling.
We got out right after George Floyd died. We got out of the city and we went to a couple other places. And I'm not going to put nobody on the map.
Right. Right.
But we went to a couple other places and we checked on, because we got people other places. So
right.
We checked on them and we kind of did a road trip. We hung out because and we knew that, Saginaw's a smaller city, so things come here second. So we went to some bigger cities and we checked on our people in bigger cities, knowing that eventually the movement would make its way to Saginaw and then we'd be back home by then. And this is in the matter of 3 days.
Right.
This is all the matter of 3 days.
So, every single day there was a protest that was emerging in some other city across the country. So we knew that this was only a matter of time before it happened here.
Exactly. So in the first 3 days, or maybe 2 days, I can't even remember. It's been, 3 months now? Anyway.
Yeah.
But we went around, we saw good. We saw a lot of good. We saw a lot of people taking care of each other, but we saw some ugly stuff. We saw people getting pushed into bad situations and reacting badly. We saw people coming in with the wrong idea and creating bad situations. I'm not going to put anybody on the map, but y'all know what I mean. And we knew that we wanted to build something that would bring all of the good that we saw home and leave all of the bad that we saw on the cutting room floor.
Okay.
We don't need any of that. We don't need any of the dangerous, any of the destructive. We were like, and I don't just mean physically dangerous. I mean physically destructive. I mean emotionally. I mean rhetorically. Like we didn't need any of that. So we were like, how are we going to bring what we saw that was good, the community building, the defensive, how are we going to bring? And we came up with a formula, and that formula grew into what became a project called the Ghost of George Floyd.
Okay.
And so the Ghost of George Floyd's first mission, like right out the gate, we knew that we wanted to have actionable demands, things that could actually be met. So we went forward and we were like, well, what happened and what do we want to make sure never happens again? We said, so we have three things we say often, and I'll even invite you to say them with me. We say we will breathe.
We will breathe.
We say we will breathe. We say not one more.
Not one more.
And we say change gonna come.
Change gonna come.
So those three words, those three phrases really kind of get to the bottom of what we were trying to do. We wanted to make us our explicit demand from the jump, and we'll get to that. Our explicit demand from the jump was that there would be no more in the use of force policies and procedures of our local police department. There would be no more ability to choke or otherwise impine someone's ability to breathe or blood flow to their brain. Basically, nothing on the neck.
No holds the neck above.
Nothing on the neck. Right. So that was the demand. We also
how was that demand met? Because I remember encountering you guys. You guys were sitting in front of the police station.
Yes,
now.
Indeed.
You guys have participated in a lot of the different demonstrations and protests that have happened in the community. But where I encountered you all, you guys were sitting in front of the police station.
Yep.
And a part of your demand was you wanted to have a conversation with the Saginaw Police Chief, Ruth.
So that was actually much later.
That was later. Okay.
Much later. We're early in the story because you gotta remember this is three months almost.
Yeah.
Because we were out there on May 29th.
Okay.
We got out there and we did an occupation where we just held it down in front of the police station making these demands. And so over the course of that occupation, which was 3 straight days, where nobody even left, like we were there day and night.
So the police officers are seeing you.
Oh yeah.
So they know that you are. They know who you guys are while you're doing this occupation. Okay. This is a peaceful protest.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it was definitely the demonstration happened to be peaceful. Yes.
Right.
And so we were out there. This is May 29th through July 2nd. It's a June 2nd. Whew, mixed up. May 29th through June 2nd. We were out there nonstop. We didn't go home. And over the course of that, I think 260 people came through because we were kind of clicking off people. As 260 unique, different people came through over the course of those 3 days. And also at some point during the course of those 3 days, we were able to, I think it was June 1st, sit down with the chief of police and one of his lieutenants, one of his command staff, and basically present these demands that we want to see your policies and that we want to see in your policies the complete exclusion of any kind of use of force that allows you to choke a person to death, to kill a person by asphyxiation or vasoconstriction.
Right.
And the reason for that is because in a world where you got the gat, you can shoot a man, you got the baton, you can beat us, you got the taser, you can electrify us. Do you still really need to lynch us?
To choke us.
Is that necessary? So,
right.
And that's why we demanded it. And I will point out that within 22 days later, that demand was actually met. The police released their policies, and the new policy updates included duty to report, a changed duty to report, a changed duty to act, and a completely new edition of the explicit exclusion of any form of.
Okay, so mission accomplished in this particular situation. I know there were a lot of organizations that were kind of fighting for the same thing. I do remember you all sitting right there, and I do remember the conversation that you guys eventually had.
Yep.
Okay, so how do we get from that particular protest to or that particular demonstration to the demonstration that you guys were having that caused the events? What was this, July
26th?
July 26th. How do we get from this peaceful demonstration to now we are looking at this, staring down the situation with the police officers?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what was going on. What was happening on the 26th of July?
Yeah.
Petty Lewis is out there. Petty Lewis is a trip. I'm going to tell you this right now.
Okay.
She says, this is John Lewis, not to be confused with John Lewis, but Petty Lewis says, good and necessary trouble, my brother.
Thank you.
All right. So how do we get to this place? Tell me, set this up. What was going on July 26th as you guys prepared to do a demonstration, not a protest, but a demonstration as it related to the events actually surrounding Jennifer Clemens?
Yeah. So we can hop right into that because that makes perfect sense. So after basically 20 days straight of organizing in June, we dialed down a little bit at the end of June because that's a lot, and we respect that people have lives and like need to do things other than march in the street. So we dialed down a little bit, and we knew that there's always going to be something that comes back around. So we took a break, and then next thing you know, I think it was the 11th. I found out about what happened to the sister who got beaten, and I was messed up. And what I will say is that that happened to her on the 11th, and I need to get fact checked, but I think that officer had been removed from the department. First, he was put on unpaid leave immediately,
Right.
and he was removed from the department within the week. I think he was out
Pretty
the
quickly.
department
It
the
happened pretty
14th.
quickly. Yeah.
It was the 14th.
Right. It happened pretty quick.
And that's amazing. And I do want to point out that I suspect, and they of course they don't release their investigations when it comes to their internal investigations, which maybe they should because they're a public department. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But what I suspect had a role in the fact that they were able to let him go so fast was normally a 2.5 week investigation, was a 2 day investigation, is some of those changes in policies
Were already
that
in
happened
effect.
in mid-June. Exactly. So I just want to point that out.
So here's a clear indication of why the changing and the restructuring, reorganizing, removal of policy is so important, because policy becomes a roadmap to what is going to be your response when this happens. Your response is this. So it allows
Exactly.
us to take swift and decisive action on whatever it is that we're going to do.
Exactly. And
Okay.
so because of their updated policies, they were able to make those swift and decisive actions. It's so well put. And so even though that happened, and that's good. Like that's good. Sometimes people are going to do terrible things at their jobs. And what's more important is that the institution reacts to it properly. And our police department reacted properly. They let this abusive man go.
What do you say to police officers who are out there? And I've had conversations with them. They're like, dude, this guy should have not been, maybe he should have been disciplined, but being fired, no way, because Neil was completely wrong in how he handled the situation.
Well, I'm before we even get to what happened to me on the 26th.
Right.
The reason why we were out there is because even though they fired that officer, police officers in the Saginaw Police Department, in support of that abusive man, in support of him, they said, hey, we are going to call in sick. They had what's called a blue flu. And
they did this in Atlanta as well.
They do this all over the place whenever one of their abusive compatriots gets disciplined. They do this constantly, and this is just the way that they can maintain their own authority. So they do a blue flu in an attempt to intimidate their administration and stuff. And these things are organized by their unions, oftentimes not directly, but covertly. And so that's why we were where we were. We didn't want to a lot of times we do our protests in front of the Saginaw Police Department because that's who the target is.
Right.
But the Saginaw Police Department actually made the right move, which is so rare. Police departments so rarely make the right move. But I got to give it to them. They made the right move. So we didn't want to hop up in front of them. We didn't want to give them a hard time.
So you decided that in order for us to demonstrate in the front of the right audience,
Yep,
it was necessary for us to go where?
in front of an organization known as the Fraternal Order of Police.
The FOP.
The FOP.
They call your phone and they ask you for donations for what they're doing.
They do.
Okay. All right. Great.
And so we go in front of that organization because that is the oldest police union in America. Now, they're not technically speaking the police union that has the Saginaw PD, but they are still a very important cultural entity to these police officers. And so that's why I want to point out about these police unions. They have the cultural power, the fiscal power, the legal power. They have so much power to change these things, and they use it wrong. They use it to hurt us. So of course we wanted to be in front of the FOP protesting the behavior of the culture outside of the institution instead of the institution itself.
Because the FOP had taken a stance as it related to the fired officer, correct?
No.
Not of yet.
Not of yet.
Okay.
Everything according to the official Saginaw police officers representation and all of that, there was no official union coverage. But what we were here, can I actually read you a statement?
Absolutely.
If I can pull it up, just give me one moment. Here, you can ask me a couple questions while
So as you guys were prepared, the reason that you were doing this because you understood, from my understanding, that there was a movement to try to restore this officer back to the force.
Yep.
So you were like, hey, this is not right.
Yep.
As the police chief made the right decision.
Yep.
to remove immediately.
And so this is why I say it wasn't a protest; it was a demonstration.
All right,
we weren't.
And this is important. What's the difference? Explain the difference to those that are listening. The difference between a protest.
So it's subtle, and it's not a big deal. I'm just a nerd, but but at the end of the day, the reason why I'd say it wasn't a protest is because we weren't there to protest anyone. We weren't there to say, "Hey, you're wrong" to the FOP. We were there to demonstrate what was happening to our people. And so what the actual goal of what happened there that day, and none of it happened, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, I bet.
Okay.
But the actual goal of what happened there that day was to deliver a statement. We were gonna meet with each other, and we were gonna talk to each other about our experience with police brutality, about our experiences with white supremacy, in order to give context to our statement that we were gonna collectively draft, and then we were gonna leave that statement just politely, in a letter or on a post, and we were going to leave it there for the FOP and for the Saginaw Police Officers Association and the Saginaw Police Command Officers Association. We're going to leave it there for them to respond to on their time. So can I read you that statement?
Absolutely, read the statement.
So here's a rough of how that was going to read. It was going to say, we call on the Saginaw Police Officers Association and the Saginaw Police Command Officers Association and the Fraternal Order of Police to acknowledge the existence of police brutality at large and in this community. Further, we challenge you to openly declare a commitment to the discontinuation of police brutality and begin taking meaningful action as evidence of your goodwill. A good first step to rebuke the abuse perpetrated by your brother in arms on July 11th against our sister. Reprimand the misguided protest call-ins undertaken by your membership in support of the abuser. Such action undermines already crumbling faith in your profession's commitment to our safety and well-being. How can you claim to be for the people while you are willing to brutalize us? How can you claim to oppose brutality while standing behind abuse? It's time that you, as police, evidence your goodwill. We question, who do you truly protect and serve? Whose side are you on?
Okay, that was a lot. It sounds easy, but that was a lot of. That was a lot.
Yeah.
And when I look at this, so you're actually challenging police officers to stand against a brother that many of them feel
shouldn't have been there,
should not have been fired in the first place.
But also, supposedly, many of them feel that people like that shouldn't be on the force in the first place.
Well, I get it. I think that and I don't want to. Well, I don't want to mix apples and oranges here, because I want to make sure that we understand that there are a lot of police officers who feel that what took place with this officer was wrong. However, there are a lot of officers who say, he should have been reprimanded, but not fired, because there's some other issues that relate to Jennifer Clemens. She's a habitual offender with them, and some other things that relate to her that could be problematic with an individual putting their sputum on you. And I just say it that way. And in a season of COVID, you spitting fluid.
It's true.
You're trying to kill me.
It's true.
So now we have to look at that and take that into consideration. Because I'll tell you right now, spitting on somebody is no small milestone, and there's a reason why people spit on you, because their intent is to demean and to defile you. And so, looking at that, we have to begin to take those things into consideration. But I think that I want to first of all say that absolutely I agree with Frank Sanders that commented that letter was absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
Great letter.
It was collectively.
So this was the goal. What happened that caused this situation to go awry? You guys show up on the scene to do what you planned. To drop off this letter. And to begin the possibility of a conversation.
Exactly.
So what happens?
That's what it's always all about. Well, we pulled up. We were actually still setting up. I believe, and you might be able to see it in the video. Saginaw PD only released part of the video. I really wish they released the whole thing. Shout out to Bob Ruth, Saginaw City Council, whoever can hear this, who could make these decisions. Please go ahead and release the whole video. But other than that, we pulled up and we were getting set up. We set up tents so that people are out of the shade. It was a very hot day. I think it was the hottest day.
Yeah, no, y'all was out there burning up like little ants on a farm. I was like, leave them kids alone. They out there sweating and burning up. Like, let them go.
Yeah. So we were not. I was when the police pulled up. I was actually still putting ice in the cooler because we were still getting set up. We'd been there for less than 15 minutes, possibly. I'm not exactly sure. When an officer came up and from there the video goes. But what I do want people to know that isn't necessarily something you can see from the video that either we that was live streamed because we were worried for certain people's safety, because we live streamed that because we were genuinely concerned that someone was gonna, so someone did get hurt. I got hurt, but we live streamed it, and so you can see from there, and then also their video will show. But that video starts less than within 15 minutes of us arriving on scene. So they were waiting for us. They were waiting to come out and disperse us and remove us, and basically confirm what we were concerned about, if you ask me.
Okay, so I want to just make this clear while we're listening, because we're getting some comments. Brandon Harris, comment well taken. Brandon is saying, how many teachers have been spit on?
Right.
Do they have the power to knock a student unconscious?
Boom.
I get you, Brandon. But Brandon, I would like to see you in that blue uniform and have somebody spit a loogie on you and see how you respond to that. Let's be honest about this, because this is a fair conversation.
I think we should be honest.
And I want to say this because a lot of times, and I understand this, and just so you guys understand where I come from a family that is law enforcement. I mean, either military, police officers, so I get it. However, I am an individual who believes in standing up for the rights of the people. So I think that there is an understanding that has to take place here, that we have to be realistic. Police officers are real people.
Yes.
You know, as my profession as a pastor doesn't mean that I am, I somehow, when I become pastor, I'm superhuman.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I am fallible. I am a man.
Yeah.
I have emotions. I have family. I have friends that I want to return home to. So we got to keep those things into perspective. And I think it's easy to think that officers should be supermen. But I do realize that there is a level of consciousness that you have to be aware that when you sign up to protect and to serve and to defend and do all these things,
yes,
that everybody's not going to come smiling and with a bed of roses.
Correct.
So I get that. Reginald Williams, I thank you for the comment. My desire for Straight Talk is always to be unbiased. Neil doesn't come here because I really think he's one of the greatest young men that we have. Unchallenged. I'm not going to blow smoke up in the air for him or any of those things. Dawn Goodrow, spit happens at ESSK. Never punched anyone or even called the police.
So can I jump in on that?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
So let's talk about that. Someone just spoke up who works not necessarily as a first responder, but as someone who serves. And if you work as someone who serves, sometimes people in bad shape are going to show up, and sometimes, like somebody said, spit happens. I've never worn a police uniform, but I've worn 2 other uniforms, including a uniform as a firefighter and a uniform as an EMT. And I cannot tell you how many times I've been spat on. But I will never and have never beaten a handcuffed person.
And I agree with you. And I agree with you. So when I saw that, and there's a reason. And the other thing that I'm going to say to you about that is that there is a reason why this video has not been released. And I know when I talked to you, said, what is the purpose?
I came to your side on this.
Yeah, you were like, what is the purpose of seeing this video? I don't think they have to release it. Yeah. I said, no, you have to release it, because if we're going to have a full conversation about where things are, and you want someone like me to stand up and say, you know what, I'm standing with Blue, I support police officers, I don't believe in defunding the police, because when I call 911 and somebody's breaking in my house, I want to know that someone's coming. However, I do believe that police officers oftentimes, and this ain't everybody, and I'm not trying to mince my words if you want to, parse my words if you like, I don't care. But I think that there are a lot of times that police officers sometimes get used and get drunk with power. And so the fact that I am an officer, I'm no longer an officer of the law, or I'm no longer a symbol of the law, but I am the law. Right. So you do what I say as I say. And a person like myself, I have a problem with that, because people have rights.
Right.
And we're paying your tax dollars. So that means that we, in a way, have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to protect, to serve, and to respond accordingly.
So, yeah, on that subject, like, when it comes to the video, and I didn't understand this until I spoke to you about it, but, when it came to George Floyd, when it comes to this other video, even when it comes to what happened to me, a lot of times I personally don't watch it. Like, I don't watch it.
Right.
And the reason I don't watch it is because I've been through it. I've watched I've watched countless of my people go through it. You know, I've been doing this being black thing for 28 years, and so I've seen it. And I've also had a lot of encounters, but I do understand, and it's because we spoke about it. People who haven't experienced police brutality, or especially people who haven't experienced being black, but even black people who haven't experienced police brutality, they need to see these things.
Because there's some black people who ain't experienced being black. Real talk.
I
mean,
don't.
that's a whole other conversation.
I have to say
but I get it. Go ahead.
But yeah, so I really came your way after you broke it down to me why it's important, and I do agree with you. I do agree with you.
Okay, so there are Frank Sanders. I thank you, Latonya Cotter. Not only handcuffed but a female. I'm going to tell you like this about being a female. I don't think that a woman should ever get into a man's face and act like a male because you are asking for a male to respond like a male. And there are some men who were not raised with that extra dose of gentleman courtesy. So if you don't want to get treated like a male, stop getting in men's faces. And so that is very important. Brandon Harris, your point is very well taken. Officers take an oath to protect and to serve. I'm a father of 3. I still can't knock my children unconscious. The larger issue is abuse of power. There's a major difference there, Brandon. And I want to bring that comment back up because there's something that's very different. And someone else said that to me. I said, this is the big difference. My kids, I brought them into the world. Yeah. I feed them. I have a responsibility. So as a parent, my discipline, however that looks, is my responsibility. However, police officers, I'm not your child. You didn't raise me. You didn't send me through school. So you don't have the right to treat me as I am your child.
And that's so, and this kind of is what that statement was supposed to be getting at. At this point in time, I think it's time to start questioning what people in this profession known as the police are truly protecting and serving. Because it's
what are you protecting and serving?
What are you protecting and serving? Is it people? Because I'm really not convinced. I'm really not convinced that the police are here to protect them.
So what are they protecting and serving? It's not people.
Maybe it's property, but sometimes I'm not convinced that they're here to protect and serve property either, because I don't know if you've ever experienced a property crime, but they very rarely, rarely are people caught in the act. Rarely even still, sometimes you'll report a property crime and someone won't come out till the next day. A lot of times no one comes out at all and you have to go file your own report.
Hey, Neil, you're talking to a black man. I've been black my whole life. Okay. So this is what I want you to understand.
It's their own authority.
I was arrested for a property crime on my own property. And so I sat there and I said, I went before the judge and he was like, wait a minute, this is for, did you park illegally? Or I was like, this address is my home. He's like, how in the world could you get a ticket and then a warrant for something that took place? I can tell you, my next door neighbor, how you doing there, John, happens to work for the zoning commission and he wants certain things done. But the fact of the matter is it happens all the time. Yep. Okay, there are a lot of things that take place that happen all the time. But I want to get to the key because I really think there needs to be some discussion because every time I have this conversation and this situation comes up, and I want to make sure that we understand this. When they engaged you, how did they initially engage you? What was the first thing that they said to you as community policing officers? How did that happen? Were the police officers already there? Did they show up afterwards? What took place? Explain this to us.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about the 26th a little more.
Okay.
So I'm ready for that. I'm going to be careful about it because it is
it is an absolutely.
Yeah, and hopefully people make the right decision. But all I want to say is I did ask whether they're protecting people. It is not like they're protecting people. Are they protecting property? Pastor K gave us the look on that. One
of our callers asked this question: was it public or private property?
First, I was not on FOP property at any point in time. I was not on FOP property. I did not go on FOP.
At any single time, there was no.
Nope,
okay,
I didn't do it. And that's all I'll really say about that. So, what are the police protecting? It's their own authority. Because we asked the question, what is it? What are they protecting and serving? It's their own authority. But whatever. About that day, and also on whether it's public or private property, I want to run through a couple things because, man, I get a lot of talk from old heads who aren't actually old enough to have worked with my heroes about the work of my heroes.
Okay.
But Martin Luther King is my hero. Malcolm X is my hero. Bayard Rustin is my actual hero. And I want to ask people who are talking about public and private property some questions. The first freedom rides, they happen on Greyhound buses. Greyhound buses are private property. Should the freedom rides have been canceled? I think not. I think not. You know, the diner sit-ins, those diners, they were private property, y'all. They were private property, y'all. But is that a reason not to do the sit-in? No.
Many of the protests in the 50s and 60s happened on governmental property.
Government property. All these things are going to happen. The fact that all this happens on private or government property is less of a sign of the criminality of the people demonstrating and protesting, and as Gil Scott Heron said, fighting for a better day. It says more about the society we live in, that people can use their private property, or that sometimes the government is willing to use its property as a barrier to keep people from expressing their need for a better community. And that's messed up. But you asked the question, and I can answer that.
Right.
You asked on the 26th how a community police officer approached a demonstration. And what I'll say is that when we arrived, there was a community police officer there who did not speak to us at all. And he pulled off shortly after we arrived. Then a number of community police officers came back.
And we say that word with
the
air quotes. Right.
Air quotes. I don't care about your khakis. I know you still have a bulletproof vest on because you're afraid of the people. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, so Deanna's hit and noticed that comment of community policing officers, that was with air quotes.
Air quotes.
We know the real deal, though. Go ahead.
What's up? Yeah, they came up aggressive, man. They came up aggressive. They came up telling us that they've been instructed by the president of this organization to remove us.
Which organization?
I assume the FOP.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm that's just something I remember hearing. And they came up aggressive. And if you watch the video, within like 2 minutes of being on scene, they had their hands on people, because I don't know what goes on with that, but I feel like keep your hands to yourself is like a kindergarten sentiment. You know what I mean? It's like something that a kindergarten teacher tells you. But people have a hard time with it, you know. But yeah, you'll notice that they rolled up aggressive. They rolled up very loud talking.
There was some conversation that was taking place. And when we watched the video, and I know that you still have a case that we don't know what's going on with it. Is it okay for me to say that after this entire debacle that you released?
Yeah, well, I'm not. This recording is not from jail.
So you were released.
Yeah, I'm out and about.
And there are no specific charges that have been filed to you as of date against you.
We're trying to. I can't speak on it. We're trying to. I don't know.
From what you are aware of.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen yet.
Okay. So I don't want you to put yourself in a situation that you jeopardize yourself in any way as well. Yeah, I appreciate you being here to discuss the facts. I think one of the key pieces, and Petty Lewis, you being real petty on today. I would not allow the KKK on my front lawn. As a matter of fact, as an individual who has a very well diverse way of expressing myself, I would use my words first. Yeah. And when my words don't work, I would do as America does. I go to my Second Amendment rights, and I would give them 365 reasons why they would want to live, or 357, should I say? But so no, I don't operate that way. Thank you for calling me a fraud. I'll be a fraud every day of the week. I don't mind that. Here at Straight Talk, we make conversations. We make comments that are important, that are imperative to the conversation. So, Petty Lewis, if your desire is to be petty, we can always dismiss you from this conversation. Oh, wow. I appreciate having diverse opinions, and I will always allow them to be welcome here as we are discussing issues that are very diverse and very, people have very different conversations and feelings and thoughts about this. So it's important for us to allow those things to happen and all of us to have an opinion. So I appreciate you.
Can I make a statement about in the face of that? Okay, so this is why I think I said this when I took an interview about this once. I hope it made it. I hope people heard it. But you'll see in that video, if you watch the video of what happened to me, you'll see throughout it, I'm checking on people. I'm trying to be kind to people, because I think that's part of what we do in Saginaw. I think in Saginaw, we're a genuinely kind person, because people in Saginaw have been through a lot. Our city collapsed twice on us. Once way back before any of us were born, back during the lumber age, and then again when GM left. We faced it out here. Studies have been done as recent as the early aughts that show that Saginaw is as segregated as Mississippi. We've been through it out here. But we try to be kind to each other, and so Petty, like, we'll be kind to you too.
Petty Lewis is like, wait a minute, y'all going at me hard. That's not what I was saying. I got you, Petty.
We're kind. I see you. Thank you.
All right, so I want to get to this because so you were never on FOP's property, according to what you understood. The engagement, So what do you say to someone? And there have been a number of people, and a lot of people received a lot of backlash for saying, why did he just not, comply? Why didn't he just put his arms behind his back the way the officers said? Why was he quote unquote resisting? Why, they told you to do this. Why didn't you just do this?
Yeah.
And your response, do you have a response to that?
So resisting is legal terms, and I'm not a lawyer.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to get into that. I actually worked pretty hard throughout the entire experience to be compliant. If you ask me,
you asked the question. Well, if we are,
where can I be?
Where can I be?
And then I
hold on right there, because I want those that are listening to this conversation, because I think that a lot of what takes place and how this situation ends, there's a whole issue of abuse of power that we haven't even gotten to on this. But I want you to ask yourself, to ask this question of yourself. If you were doing something that you thought was in your constitutional right, I have a right to assemble. I have a right to protest. I have a right to demonstrate. As long as I'm doing this peaceful protest, I'm doing good.
Right.
And law enforcement comes and says, you can't be here. And you ask the question, well, where can I be? I had an officer tell me it's not a police officer's responsibility to tell you. You should have staked that out in advance. How many of you guys feel that way? Or do you think, how much does it take for an officer to respond, you know what, this is their property. Feel free to stand over here, but this is where the complaint came from, so I need you to remove yourself from that property. Well, where are we at on that question? Because I think that a lot hinges on that question there. But go ahead, Neil.
Here's a thought. So I don't know. It's hard to even say what a police officer's role is, because obviously these roles are changing. Their policies change so fast. What is policing going to look like as we go forward as a country and as a community? That's a whole big question. So my real question is, what's a community police officer's role there? Like, you roll up in the khakis, you're a community police officer. You're supposed to be part of this community.
That's why I said that. You're not in full uniform. You're in khakis lower. So you're a community police officer.
And I try to have a conversation with you, and you put your hands on me. That's not how we roll in my community, man.
What should be the role of a community police officer based upon?
He could have had that conversation with me. We could have looked up the lines together. We could have talked about it. We could have done literally anything but what we did.
The fact of the matter is that no one was in imminent danger.
No.
You were not there to cause imminent danger.
Definitely not.
Okay, so if there is something that is going on, this is like if your kid had a lemonade stand and they took it out and said, hey, I'm going to have this lemonade stand. I'm going to go down here and put it out here. And Miss Susie, who lives next door, is like, get these kids off my front lawn. And they call the police. And these types of things happen all the time.
Yeah.
Is the police are going to come out and begin to harass the child, or is he going to say, you can't be on their property, and he's going to direct them to where they can go, right?
I was literally asking to be advised on where to go next. And at no point did, even once things got physical, at no point did I make a move to get away. And honestly, man, like I've been through some stuff, and during that actual point, I did experience I did experience a crisis, and people who know me could see it was happening, and they were talking about in the video. You hear people shouting that he's not okay. So
right, and they were mentioning that there were some issues that you had, right?
Yeah, and so I was you can see me beginning to experience a crisis, and I tried to handle it as I tried to handle it as well as I could in the moment, and I like to think I did, but at no point did I ever make any move against the officers or make any move to defend myself, anything like
Let
that.
me say this for you, because I don't want you to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But a lot of times in these situations, your motivation for showing up as an officer will dictate how that situation is going.
Yeah.
Now, let's be clear what was going on. You guys were there in opposition to something that they were happy about. You were there to make a demonstration that you didn't agree that this officer should come back. So your very presence to them is a nuisance in the fact that you're doing something, you're going against what it is that we want to have happen. Okay. So then if we operated, and I'll tell you, if that is my motive and my agenda is I'm upset because this happened, a part of this happens probably because they just didn't want you there. When I look at that video over and over again, that is what comes to mind. Deonis Hinton, Brandon Harris, and all of you guys that are out there, Rebecca, Garth Gray, I want to give you 30 seconds really quick. If there's something that you can give in 30 seconds to our people, an hour goes by so fast. What would you want to share?
If there's something that we can get off in 30 seconds, it's that police brutality is real and it needs to end. It's that white supremacy is real and it needs to end. And the only things that are gonna bring an end to these forces in our lives that are systematically diminishing the lives of people all over America. And look, this white supremacy stuff, this police brutality stuff, it affects white people too. It affects all people. This is bringing all of us down. And the only way, 30 seconds, the only way that we're gonna get out of any of this is if we make measurable, actionable moves forward. I'm talking about there needs to be changes in policies, new institutions, the whole nine. So fight for specific things, demand specific things, and let's move ahead together.
All right, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. And Reggie, your words did not go. Do not be concerned or consumed with what the uniform looks like. If they're carrying a badge, they go with the full authority of the law. Let's make sure that we're handling ourselves, taking care, checking in, as Neil says, on one another. Take care of yourselves and each other. Grace and peace.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen.